Well, realized I hadn't done one in a while, so have I even done one yet? I think maybe I did like right after the last draft. But I thought it was a good time to come on here and try and start getting myself in the flow of things and give you a 2025 NFL mock draft. You can check out all the picks down below. It's a 2-round edition since it's been a while. And plus, Bears bias here, right? They have 2 picks in round 2. I wanted to see how that could all play out. So here you fucking go. I will tell you that, I wouldn't take too much stock in where I'm placing players or teams and their picks and so forth. Wouldn't worry too much about that right now. We got like 5+ months to go. A lot will change. I'll get up to speed on what I think about prospects and have a better feel for where they should fall in a few months. But it is still helpful in terms of being a directional exercise that can determine themes and trends that I see here. And when I look at this mock draft, the first thing I look at is the quarterback position, which naturally we typically do, and we typically should. It is by far the most important position in football. It is the most important position in any sport in North American team sports, period. Like, no argument to be had there. It's quarterback. Quarterback is the guy, right? And when I look at this class, it feels like it's a class of with fleas, if you will. And you're saying, what the fuck does that mean? It's like, I look at these guys and none of them really stand out to me at this point, and I haven't studied them in depth yet to like really have fully flushed out formulated opinions. It's more like cursory observations, watching some stuff here and there. I feel like with Cameron Ward and Shedeur Sanders and Jalen Milroe, there are things to like and there are some things that really concern me that I don't know that those concerns have been assuaged. And if I'm looking at trying to get a quarterback here, it feels like there are going to be more teams with needs than there are really quality quarterback prospects in this draft class. And I think last year's quarterback class was certainly better, and especially at the top, but probably throughout. I also wonder like how this is going to play out with Shedeur, because I would assume that him and Dion, the Sanders camp, are going to try and pull an Eli, an Elway in terms of wanting to pick the spot, wanting to choose the spot, wanting to have some say-so, and potentially scaring some teams off at the top. I always wonder, like, what would have happened if the Cowboys didn't give Dak Prescott that massive contract extension? Would you be looking at Dion being the coach of the Cowboys and his son coming into the fold? Like, certainly possible, and seems incredibly unlikely now, right? It seems incredibly unlikely. I would think, and this is just all guessing, conjecture, whatever right now, is that Dion and Shedeur are going to want him to go to a situation where a big media market. That's going to be very important, especially when you think about off-the-field endorsements like, hey, make your money, young man. Do what you got to do, right? So I totally get that. Certainly going to want to go play under an offensive-minded head coach, I would expect, that has some real credibility and chops in terms of the offensive side of the ball. And you're going to look and you're going to say, well, you're sending him to the Giants. Yep, major market. I don't know that Brian Daboll is going to be there, but if he was, it could be a worse situation because, Daboll got the best you possibly could out of Danny Dimes, who, by the way, apparently just requested and was granted his fucking release. What a disaster there. But if not, the Giants are the Giants, so they're always going to be an appealing option for somebody. So I look at it right now and I'm like, if Jacksonville ended up with the top pick, they'd be much more likely to trade down, which could be a beautiful position for them to be in if teams get a hard-on for one of these quarterbacks. They've got to hope that, right, if they end up with the number 1 pick. Cleveland at 2, I just can't see it in terms of going quarterback in general, but especially Shedeur. Why the hell would Dion and Shedeur want him to go to fucking Cleveland? The fucking skid marks? Not to mention the fact you got Deshaun Watson and all that dead cap that he's going to carry over the next couple of years. Like, you're almost stuck with keeping him, really, even coming off of the Achilles injury this year. Which leaves Tennessee, and I just can't really buy Tennessee as a place that Shedeur would want to play or Dion will want to have him play, right? I can certainly buy Tennessee being in the market for a quarterback, especially at that pick, because if they're picking there, that means the Will Levis has fully established that he's a disaster and he's not the guy, and you got to go get quarterback at that moment. But they might choose somebody like a Cameron Ward and view him as like a little bit of a safer option. I think Jalen Milroe has more physical tools, but I love the thought of the fit of him maybe with the Raiders, Shedeur with the Giants. Even when I look at Sanders, I say, just how great is his arm talent? I think it's more okay than it certainly is anything special. He certainly doesn't give me C.J. Stroud vibes right now, I'll put it that way. C.J. Stroud's arm talent was pretty good. It wasn't elite, but the things that he could do, he did really, really well. So I'd certainly look at this as a draft where you've got probably those three would be your top quarterbacks taken. It'd be interesting to see where they go. And you look at the top of this draft, and right now, like I said, if Jacksonville ended up with the top pick, they're likely bailing out of that pick, right? As they should. And it would do them some real good to do so. But let's just humor it for a moment and talk about Travis Hunter. Will he play corner at the NFL level, or will he play wide receiver at the NFL level? And I think the thought is, at least my thought is, and I'm sure the thoughts of others, he's a better corner prospect than receiver prospect at the next level. But receivers get paid a lot more. So if you're thinking about like which position are you better at versus which position pays more, the decision is obvious. You got to go wide receiver. Now, I don't know that a guy like Travis Hunter would go a number one overall, but if Jacksonville was there, they'd at least probably consider it. Although I think Hunter's landing spot is more in like the 3 to 6 range. I'd be really curious to see will their teams primarily focus on him as a corner or wide receiver, or if they will try to go the kind of hybrid route and like, hey, we are going to play him at corner, but we'll play him some at wide receiver. I'll be really fascinated to see what the draft talk in the months ahead will look like for Travis Hunter. The Browns at 2, I've got them taking McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. They need a game breaker. You could certainly say, well, they'll go with quarterback because even if you draft a quarterback and you have to continue to carry Deshaun Watson's salary cap number, the cap hit for a quarterback being taken number 2 isn't all that preventative. And I would agree it's not, right? And for as bad as they are, they need a fresh start. It's almost like one of those, you keep Deshaun on the 53-man roster, but you inactivate him every week and you send him the fuck away. So he's not there. It's not a distraction. Just a thought. Other than that, that's kind of the top 5, right? You've got Travis Hunter, you've got McMillan, and then you've got the 3 quarterbacks. Other themes that I see in this draft is if you want an offensive tackle, you probably want to get one early in round 1 because I don't think the depth is particularly great. I think the interior offensive lineman depth is a little bit better as you get to day 2. I'm sure some of you, especially Cowboys fans, are going to be like, why do you have the Cowboys taking Jeanty at pick 9? I'm a little skeptical too with his size and everything else, the devaluation of the running back position in certain years, but I could certainly see a Jerry Jones being very attracted to having a Jeanty, a star player coming in and making an impact on offense from day 1, I'm just saying. I would not be shocked at all with that type of pick. I think it's a really good class, especially at the top in terms of edge rushers and the defensive line in general. So you're going to see a lot of those guys flow throughout round 1. For Bears fans wondering what I'm having them do, you should love the philosophy even if you disagree with the players. I've got them taking Aireontae Ersery, the offensive tackle from Minnesota at 14. The reality is Braxton Jones stinks. He can't be your starting left tackle in 2025. The Bears need 4 new starters on the offensive line. You assume Darnell Wright at right tackle for now, but even then I could make the argument like, should he maybe kick inside to right guard? But they've got to address offensive line early and often, both in the draft and free agency this offseason. Period. So give me Ersery at left tackle at that point in the draft. And then Donovan Jackson, if he was even there, if he would even be there. Play him in the interior if you want. Again, they need 4 new starters on the offensive line, and it's likely you can't get all 4 of them in one draft. So there's going to have to be a veteran or 2 there, but they need to invest multiple picks early on the offensive line. And then Landon Jackson, again, if he's there, having him go 45. You got to address the trenches on the defensive side of the ball, too. You'll see I'm prioritizing the offense first, but you can't just totally neglect and ignore the defense, and the trenches on both sides of the ball, frankly, fucking need to get better and a lot better. And you talk about what they've paid Montez Sweat. Now you bring in a Jackson. You've got a nice kind of complementary edge rusher for Sweat there. Could do a lot worse is my point. Now with the Bears and the way this round 2 would sit is you have picks 41 and 45. I certainly think there could be an argument you say, do you try to peel up from 41 a little earlier in round 2 to ensure you get your next guy, or maybe even to the tail end of round 1 so you can get that 5th year of like rookie contract control? Answer is you do whatever it takes, right? You got to get your fucking guys. But the focus, the primary focus has to be on the offensive line. Any other takes or opinions about the Bears and the draft approach that don't center on that, which I'm sure you're going to see very few contrary opinions, are just ass wrong. It has to be about the offensive line. Now, you know, the Bears could find themselves wherever they end up picking in round 1, and you're like, the edge rusher talent that's available is so superior to the offensive tackle talent. Do you just take the better talent even if it's not the bigger position of need? I understand the thought process, but again, the context matters. And the answer is no, you fucking don't, unless you think they're going to be Hall of Fame level. Because otherwise, the priority is still Caleb Williams and protecting Caleb Williams, supporting Caleb Williams, and doing what you can to develop Caleb Williams so you can hope he can become the guy. You don't do that with a fucking edge rusher in the middle of round 1. You do that by drafting an offensive tackle that can protect his blind side for the next half a decade in his rookie scale contract and hopefully beyond. So again, you can take a look at my picks, bitch about them all you want. A lot of it's going to change in the months ahead, but thought it was time to get one of these out there. All right, I'm out.